I will go ahead and give this presentation, and Ross Silver, our mobility manager, is here with me as well. He is in charge of our Transportation Disadvantaged Bus Pass program as well as our DART program, and I'll talk a little bit about that.
Is that your background music?
Yeah, I thought that was.
That's our TD background.
If you would, put your phones on silent if you could.
Theme music.
Okay.
So this is an action item for your consideration to make some adjustments to our discounted bus pass program rules that we believe will expand its use by many people. And what we're not proposing to do is adjust the fares that passengers pay. There's been a lot of discussion about this. This started back in prior to October, when the Finance Committee of PSTA reviewed it. It was actually Ross and his staff at PSTA who were looking at ways to improve the program and address many of the concerns that a lot of the people that get the discounted pass have made some recommendations. At the Finance Committee in October, we had proposed an adjustment for some people in the amount that they would pay for the discounted pass. Pinellas County Public Defender, Mr. Bob Dillinger, came to that meeting, expressed concern about the fare increase, and so we went back and took another look at it. Ross and I have, over the last 2 weeks or week, been to the Homeless Leadership Board, where Commissioner Long sits also from PSTA. And then on Friday, Ross and I attended, I'm not sure what it's called, but it's the Providers Council.
Morning.
Good morning. I'm sorry, I cannot remember your name from, okay, Michael DePozo from St. Vincent de Paul is the chair of the Providers Council. Thank you for coming. This is not working. So again, the recommendation for your consideration for approval is to support the changes that I'm going to go through that will expand the eligibility for the discounted bus passes, maintain the current fares, and then we have a plan to continue to work with the agencies, with nonprofit agencies, to make further improvements to the program. Again, PSTA provides a discounted bus pass for people with lower income. We receive some state dollars from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged to allow us to provide this discounted bus pass program, and it's very popular. Some 3,100 people a month get discounted bus passes. The program has been in existence for a while, more than a decade, but about 3 years ago, when the funds started getting lower, and some changes were made to reduce the number of passes or the number of trips taken with these discounted passes. And the pass program was split into two. Based on the number of medical or work trips that you would take as a person with an income of under 150% of the poverty line, PSTA would tell you whether you were eligible to get a 10-day bus pass or a monthly bus pass. And I think that older gentleman that made a public comment who said that someone took away his monthly pass probably was referring to the TD program, where he didn't have 10 medical trips in the month. So PSTA said, per the rules, you only get a 10-day pass. You don't get a monthly pass. And he wasn't too happy about that. That's the number one barrier and concern that we hear all the time, is about 55% of individuals who apply for the pass are deemed, or they don't have more than 10 medical trips or work trips in a month, and so they are only given a 10-day pass for $5. It's still dramatically cheaper than the $20 for a week pass that we charge full price, but it's $5. What they really want is the $8.25 monthly pass. Why? Because, of course, although they may only take 10 medical trips in a month, they need transportation the entire month. And if you have a monthly pass, then your transportation is provided. There are a number of other hoops you have to go through to get the discounted bus pass. The current program requires you to submit every month something called a trip verification form. And Ross and his staff process 2,000 trip verification forms every month from people with the discounted pass. This confirms that, yes, I, Brad Miller, took 11 medical trips, and I have doctor's notes that validate that I had medical appointments to get the discounted pass. We're the only system in the state of Florida that has this trip verification form process. The third barrier is that it often takes almost 2 months to get into the program. Most of the people that are getting this discounted bus pass don't walk up to PSTA and say, "Hi, I'm low income." They come through an agency, like St. Vincent de Paul or Goodwill or the Boley Center or residential area. They come in there and they say, they go through a program for there, and then the agency helps them sign up for the discounted pass. The pass applications are due to PSTA by the 10th of every month, so the nonprofits usually have a deadline slightly before that. And then those passes don't kick in until the following month. So if you miss the deadline, say in December, if you went into a nonprofit and wanted a transportation, say December 6th, you probably haven't gotten your bus pass yet. You'll get your first bus pass on February 1st. It could be 2 months, basically, delay. And obviously that is a major barrier for many, many people. So what we're proposing to do is change that whole system. And we've been working with the nonprofits, the MPO, and their local coordinating board on this. And we think this really will make the system a lot better. We will we're proposing to do away with the trip verification form and instead have an annual certification that you just have to turn in once a year. So that will certainly eliminate a lot of paperwork on PSDA's end, at the agencies that are helping clients make these applications, and with everybody. We're proposing to do away with the mandating of what kind of bus pass you get and give everybody a choice. You can either have the 10-day pass, or you can, if you want to pay $825, you can have the 31-day pass.
Brad, do you have copies of that particular slide? I don't think that was in the packet.
I don't think it's in your packet. I emailed it out to all of you this morning, and it's on the
Okay.
go-to meeting, of course. But
Okay.
this chart is, I think, just in the PowerPoint. But we can make sure you have it. The third is, like I said, today only 45% of the roughly 3,100 people qualify for a monthly pass. Under the new program, we expect more than 95, virtually everyone will choose the monthly pass at $825 rather than stick with the 10-day pass, even if they only have a few medical trips or work trips, because they are riding PSTA every day. Some of them are riding every single day of the month.
Mr. Chair, Brad,
Commissioner Newton?
you mentioned $25 for a 31-day pass, and then you went to the $8. What was that about? Just before you said that, you
Right,
said.
so the full price, the regular price of a week, 7-day pass is $20 at PSTA.
Right?
But folks who are under 150% of poverty can qualify for this TD discounted pass. It gives them 10 days for $5. They now, starting March 1st, instead of paying $65, which is the regular price for the PSTA monthly pass, $65 a month, people under 150% of poverty and that do not have access to a car can qualify for the 31-day pass for only $8.25, a substantial discount. Instead of 65, they'll pay $8.25. The average customer out of pocket will go from today, $12 to $29, to $8.25 to $12. They'll go with these monthly passes, we believe. This is a change from what we presented first to the Finance Committee, and then what we presented even at the Homeless Leadership Board when we presented to them a week ago, and that we are proposing to maintain the fares at their current rates. And this was supported by the provider network when we talked to them on Friday. This will have an impact, we believe, to PSTA's fare box revenue. Right now, the combination of payments for these discounted bus passes, plus the regular cash that folks who are currently riding with a 10-day pass are putting in the fare box after their 10 days is up, amounts to $475,000 a year to PSTA. Of course, all those folks that are currently getting a 10-day pass and then paying cash the rest of the month will no longer put that cash in the fare box because they'll have their 31-day pass. And so that will be a hit to PSTA's fare revenue coming through the fare box. We estimate it could be as much as $150,000, but I am recommending that we go ahead and do that. We don't know that that will be the exact amount. We have done a survey of the customers to try to estimate how much they spend in a month, but we'll have to see how it goes and plan accordingly. Again, why are we recommending this change? Again, more than half of the current riders are only getting a 10-day pass, but they need transportation the entire month. And so they're still riding, but they're paying full price. These are the lowest income folks. Most of them are actually about 75% of them are under the poverty line, and they are getting a 10-day pass, and then they are paying full price, the full PSTA fare, the rest of the month. So they will save, by going with these recommendations, save a substantial amount of money. Now, over the last couple of weeks, as we've been talking to folks about this program, and thanks to Mr. Dillinger for raising awareness of this, we've come to analyze our own data and realize it's not necessarily the low-income riders who are paying a lot of this money. It is the agencies. The nonprofit agencies are providing this money. So it becomes more of a policy decision about how we set our fares. More than 80% of the TD bus pass applications come through a nonprofit agency. They're the ones that are then subsidizing or paying for extra bus passes for clients in that 2-month gap between their application time and the time that they start. Agencies also buy a whole bunch of other kinds of passes from PSTA for other purposes, and we provide a 10% discount off bulk pass purchases. We've done some research on what other counties in Florida do, and Palm Beach County, Florida, provides a discounted bus pass. It's kind of very similar to what PSTA does. And what they have something interesting. They developed an online application that they share with their human service agencies in Palm Beach County. And so when a lower income person comes into a human service agency, there's an online application that they fill out and they get their bus pass right away. And it's transmitted to the transit agency who submits it to the state electronically. That seems like a great program. Another idea might be that we would take payment from the agencies, give them the bus passes so they would have bus passes at their wherever they are, and then they could fill out the application after they give the client the bus pass. That would be a way to speed up the processing of these passes to get people their passes as fast as can. Last, and we talked to we mentioned it to the agencies, but I think it's what we found was that we're not sure that the nonprofits, all of the nonprofits, are getting the discounts that they perhaps deserve. Some are not getting the 10% discount on bulk purchases. Some seem to be paying $65 a month for bus passes, perhaps for low-income people that they could qualify perhaps for these TD passes. So it's important that we step up our communication with these nonprofits as much as we can. It's a very important issue for PSTA. A lot of questions from the Homeless Leadership Board and from members there said, well, why can't it just be free? Why can't you have a free system for our lowest income individuals? And that would be a policy decision that the PSTA board should consider. But it is a substantial, when taken in aggregate, a very important revenue source for PSTA. PSTA's FY14 adopted budget has $14.2 million in fare revenue included in that, about just under 25% of the overall adopted budget. Just under 10% of all of our fares don't come from cash in the fare box. They come from nonprofit agencies, checks to PSTA from human service agencies. It's about $1.2 million a year in agency payments for bus passes. In addition to the $1.2 million from agencies, we get $1.8 million from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged. We get $200,000 for Medicaid bus passes from the state's Medicaid broker. And we get $400,000 from customers who are eligible for our DART services. So it's a substantial amount of our passenger revenue is coming from these programs, about $3.6 million. If we were to make it free, obviously that would have a major impact on our service, and it would affect and we could provide less service because we wouldn't have that revenue, but it would be a policy decision that we might make. I just finished with this example because it is a tangled web, but it is very important that we try to get a handle on how we manage this program. An individual agency might buy 3 kinds of bus passes or bus passes from PSTA for 3 different purposes. Number 1, they buy bus passes as carrots. I call them carrots. They are maybe one-day passes that they say to me, the client in my example, if you come back tomorrow sober, you get another bus pass. If you come back the next day showered, you get a bus pass. Those are one-day bus passes, probably. I don't think most agencies give out a monthly for a carrot. Then there's the stopgap bus passes that they buy from us during that 2-month window before they get their TD pass or until they get on their feet, maybe for a certain amount of time. A number of agencies pay their first month bus pass, but then they don't pay anything after that. And then there are some agencies that buy bus passes from us every month and just provide their clients transportation. All of those, I think, have a different impact on PSTA financially, and perhaps maybe there's just different policies behind each of those. You look at you are the PSTA board, and you govern the fares that PSTA sets. And we always talk about what our fare is. We have a $2 base fare. This is a graph from our benchmarking program where we compare ourselves all the time to about 20 other transit systems across the country. And I have blacked out the names of those transit systems because that's not necessarily important. It's just a sort of relative to see where we are at with our fares. And if you look here, this is our base fare at $2. You can see that we're toward the upper end of sort of our national peers across the country. If you look at our monthly pass at $65, we're also pretty high, a little bit above the average. But because we have all of these discount programs, so does everybody else. Perhaps a better way to look at our fare policy is this graph, which is perhaps somewhat difficult to look at, but this is the average revenue we receive per customer boarding the PSTA buses, or per ride, that we calculate total revenue divided by total ridership. And you can see SP, which stands for St. Petersburg in the benchmarking program. That's us. In 2012, we received about $1.05 or $1.06 per customer riding. So even though we have a $2 fare and a $65 monthly pass, what obviously matters is these various discount programs that we offer, because we're actually only receiving $1.06 per customer across the board. The Ernst & Young study that's part of the Greenlight Plan, this is the number that they monitored, is can we make sure that our average revenue per customer keeps rising at the rate of inflation? As you can see that graph, it has been rising. And a lot of that has to do with how we affect these discounts on the passes, just as much as it is what we set the actual fare at. So that was probably more information than you needed to know. The bottom line is that I think these program changes, by getting rid of the trip verification forms and opening up, many, many more people will have the eligibility for the monthly pass, including that one customer that came and commented this morning. He can get the monthly pass. Will be very widely and positively received. And it will have a fiscal impact on the PSTA fare revenue, we believe, but we think we are able to cover that within our budget.
Michael, if you come to the front desk, Michael, Rachel has the cards. Brad, thank you for your approach on this and for your collaboration. I think this is the right approach. We have a couple of cards on these. Do we have any questions from the board at this point?
You need a motion before you do questions?
I want to get the comments first, and then we'll do
No
the motion.
problem.
I got a question.
Commissioner Dighton?
Yeah, what is the possibility that, that we could approximate the program that you mentioned that they have done in, I think it was in Palm Beach County, where there is it's done online. It doesn't strike me that people who are below 150% are going to have access to a lot of computers, but that might be wrong. But is there some sort of a possibility for us to institute something like that?
Yeah, I think so. Again, it wouldn't be probably the individuals that would be needing access to a computer. It would be the agencies. We would share this online application form with the agencies who are already filling out the paper applications, the vast majority of paper applications today. It would just speed the application process up substantially as far as us getting the information so that we can distribute the bus passes.
And the people that the agencies that we've been dealing with, do they feel that most of their clients are going to be needing these passes on a yearly basis, or do they find that a lot of their clients are in and out of their care, to get them on their feet and they're off? What I'm questioning.
I think it completely depends. I'm sure maybe we'll have some insight here, but I mean, it just depends on the program that they're offering. You know, I think some of the residential programs, they provide maybe longer-term assistance. Some of the, say, more homeless shelter kind of organizations maybe are more of the day passes and the individual kind of thing. It's all over across the board.
I'm just wondering about the
Yeah.
necessity of a one-year commitment, that's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Newton?
Yes. Brad, just had a couple questions for you. You said it's estimated that it would, PSA would lose about $150K in fare box revenue.
Yeah.
How much funding do we get from the state and other sources? Would it be enough to defray that or no? For this program?
Well, we get a grant from the Commission for Transportation Disadvantaged totaling about $2.4 million. Now, what the board has done historically is take $600 and some thousand off the top of that and give those directly to nonprofit agencies to provide transportation, neighborly transportation, Park and U Park. get $600,000 of that funding. And so PSTA nets $1.8 million from the state that more than offsets that, certainly.
And does the nonprofits providers, do they track the passes that they issue or pay for abuse of everything's being used proper? Or do you know that?
Yes, I mean, and that was actually raised at the provider network. The nonprofits are just as concerned as we are about making sure that the bus passes that they are paying for go to meeting the mission of their nonprofits, and right, that the people that they want are getting the passes and using them.
They're not being sold, nothing like that, or resold.
Right.
How much would the agency save under this new program? Because you said they pay for the passes, and if we're reducing them substantially, how much savings would be passed on to the agency?
Well, I think they're happy because they may not necessarily recognize savings, but they're not going to see any cost increases under the program. And in fact, if we can speed up the process that more and more of their clients can get access to the monthly bus passes, then they likely will see a saving because they won't have to provide as many stopgap bus passes while they wait for their application to be approved.
And that's a good segue over. Asked about has this program been streamlined as much as possible, and are they in agreement?
Oh, well, I think
I
you didn't
see
hear
him
from them,
nodding
but
behind you.
I think they're in
So-
agreement, or that's what they were last week.
And you stated that over half of the people that's purchasing these passes were purchasing the $5 passes. Would the $8.25 create a hardship for the people?
No, well, at least according to our survey of them, they are all thrilled. They're jumping at the chance. They would definitely like to buy the monthly pass because for $5 you get 10 days, and you get 31 days for $8.25. And they're paying right now, after their 10-day bus pass runs out, they're paying $2 a ride in cash. So they are averaging a lot more than $8.25 total out of pocket. They'll save a lot of money on this.
And then finally, you mentioned other transit authorities, so we're benchmarking against, because this homeless problem or this need problem is countrywide. It's not
Yeah.
just prevalent here in Pinellas County. So we're benchmarking for best practices for what the other transit organizations are doing.
Yes, yes. I mean, the Pinellas discounted bus pass program is not unique, but it is fairly rare. I mean, this is the first place that I've ever worked that had a discounted pass program of this size for low-income individuals. But I mean, they're very, very popular. Thankful. It's providing a needed service in Pinellas County.
And that's why I asked you the first question when we started out, how much funding is the state providing? So obviously, the state recognizes there's a need. So
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Any other questions before we go to public comment? We'll come back for discussion and a motion. Commissioner Smith?
Just a question, a comment. I fully support the way to get away from the monthly pass and going to the annual one. I think if we could look at a way to do it online, I think would also save down paper-wise and staff. I think it would be more convenient for the providers. I really think we should do that. Also, when we look at it, what kind of savings will we have with staff? If you're getting $2,000 a day, and if you could, paper pushing that around and everything, what kind of savings would we have right there instead of going it through, like I said, paper pushing? With
Right.
staff?
Well, we do think that will free up some time, and so what we're hoping to utilize that time for is to get the bus passes distributed out to the agencies much faster than the current 4 to 7 weeks that it takes now. Basically, we have two people, Ross and one other person, that handle this program, and we think we can speed up the review process of the initial application to get more people onto the program now that we won't be swamped in these trip verification forms. The other comment I forgot to make was, as you know, we are working with our friends from HART on a smart card fare collection program. Plastic smart cards to replace the PSTA bus passes, and that will meet your objective of an annual pass. What we'll be able to do is load data onto that smart card that says, I am a TD customer and I get to ride the bus for this discounted price. And that will help with fraud and abuse, because you won't necessarily, or maybe there'll be a less incentive to give out to sell your plastic card, so you never get to ride the bus ever again. And then you'll basically have an annual pass. You won't have to do it every single month.
The other question I have, earlier on your first slide, it talked about how a lot of people forget and leave out information. And I'm assuming because we do it by paper at the moment. If we do go to the online way, could we get into like a email for the providers and stuff like that? Going to them and getting a note out to them? Like, I work in a library, and when your library card's coming up to expire or something like that, we send out a reminder saying, this is it, your card's about to expire. Make sure you bring this kind of information in with you. If we could get that out to them and let them know. And also, we also leave things like, if you forgot something, like a phone number or something like that, we let you know that we need that.
Yeah.
Could we do something like that?
We already have those similar kind of systems in place through paper snail mail. We send out a letter saying your bus pass is, your TD application is coming due. But that could all be changed to electronic if we coordinate with the agencies especially.
I think that would be great because, like I say, it would save time, staff, and it'd be more convenient for the providers and the customers because, like I say, when I know what I need to do, not everybody knows everything that needs to be on a form. And if you could send out a reminder letting them know, hey, you forgot to put your full name on here or something like that, I think it would be great. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, point of clarification.
Go ahead.
Mr. Smith, you mentioned annual pass, annual approval, monthly pass, right? We're not doing annual passes.
Right.
We're doing annual approval, monthly passes.
Correct.
Okay, he said annual
Oh,
pass.
sorry.
Okay, that's okay.
Did-
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Did Mr. Silvers have something to add?
Yeah, I think he wanted to.
Absolutely. One thing we did at the end of the meeting that we had with the providers group this past Friday was that we agreed to form did we call it a task force, I think? Kind of a task force or a special committee that's going to meet with a number of the members of the different agencies and PSTA to come up with the best system to work with the agencies to ensure accountability, efficiency, and all the kind of things we're talking about as we move forward with this process. So we'll see exactly what it looks like because there is a great deal of turnover on this program. You know, when folks who are coming through the homeless provider system and network, there's all sorts of levels of support. So some people will come into a shelter and get a bus pass, and then within a month they're gone. They're out in the street, they got their job again, they're back at work, and they may not even qualify for the program anymore because they're over income. Other folks take some time, they go through a transitional housing process, they stay in for a few months, and then they move on. So it is a process, and you know, it's the agencies who know it the best, and so we're going to work with them to figure out what system is going to be most effective.
Thank you, Ross. Commissioner Long.
Yes, I appreciate the comments that we've just received because I want to remind everyone of who our audience is that we're talking about. We're talking about our homeless population who don't always have all of the information on paper that I've heard some of us ask for this morning. And to that point, I'd really respectfully like to ask Mr. Raposa if he could come to the microphone maybe for just a minute, Brad.
I've got a card from him already.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Because the point I'm wanting to make here is, in the system, there is software that's collecting a lot of information on the people that we're trying to help, and they have it electronically, so they aren't having to keep paper records on them. A lot of these people have no permanent home. Their housing changes as they go through the program, and I think that it's in everyone's best interest to make it as seamless and as helpful and unburdensome as we possibly can. The people that we're trying to help already have huge strikes against them, and to put more requirements on them, I think, is somewhat egregious. And so I look forward to hearing Michael's remarks.
Commissioner, do you have questions for Mr. Raposa?
Well, I wanted him to, in his remarks, talk about the system already in place that assures, you know, that we have the information we need to eliminate fraudulent behavior and all of that sort of thing. That was going to be my question,
Okay,
sorry.
we'll note that. Any other questions before we get to public comments? Mr. Reposa, if you would come forward and do your 3 minutes, and then you can speak to Commissioner Long's question.
Sure enough. First and foremost, thank you for your service. I'm Michael Reposa. I'm the Executive Director for St. Vincent de Paul in St. Petersburg. I'm also the Vice Chair of our Homeless Leadership Board, which is an oversight board that oversees the delivery of services to the homeless of our community. And within that, I chair our Providers Council. There's currently 38 providers that dedicate our services, our focus of services is on the homeless community. And we meet every other month, and I am the elected leader for this year and for next year, and it's an incredible service and an honor to do that. We wholeheartedly support staff's recommendation. Our group voted on Friday for me to come and to tell you that we'd like more. We would, and we're not going to deny that fact, but we certainly think that it is an incredible step in the right direction. You know, the challenge with the homeless and the poor of our community is in essence, they don't have a voice. They didn't know that this meeting was today. They wouldn't have known to come to this meeting today, and they really rely on people like myself and the other agency CEOs to, in essence, be the voice of the poor of our community. And the important thing for you to remember, not only in the potential for this policy change, but in subsequent policy changes, is the road out of homelessness is through one of our agencies. And what we try to do, and I don't want to mitigate the concept of the carrot that Brad spoke about, because anything that we can do to incentivize them working with us to end the cycle of homelessness, which is not unlike the cycle of addiction, we need that tool. And I'm going to be honest with you, bus passes are a significant portion of that tool. My agency alone spends thousands and thousands of dollars each year just to purchase the one-day bus passes. And the minute it's out on the street that we have them available again, they line up at the door. And we require documentation for that. We require the same thing that you do. We require documentation of a medical trip. We go as far as verifying that medical trip before we actually release it. There is an incredible countywide software system that we're already participating in that we can begin the process of maybe requiring agencies, and it isn't a current requirement, but certainly if it was part of the PSTA's requirement to get maybe a deeper discount on the bulk rate, we could be required to enter those into the system. So you would be able to see that we gave so-and-so, John Doe or Mary Doe, a bus pass out of our agency on Monday, and it's live updated in the system that if they approached another agency on Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday for it, we would be able to see that, hey, you were just issued a bus pass on Monday. Regarding the documentation, you know, and the potential for abuse, there's no denying the fact that I'm not going to stand before you and lie and say that we can circumvent all of it. But I don't think that the people that really are in need should be punished because we're going to have 2 or 3 or 10 or 20 abusers in the system. We have 87 units of transitional housing on 4th Avenue North and 15th Street in downtown St. Petersburg. And for the longest time, we were allowed to take the documentation that we needed. These are men and women, three-quarter housing, that are formerly homeless. Majority of them are vets that dedicated their lives and their service to our country. They're back working. Many of them are back actively involved in the Veterans Administration, and we are the provider that purchases the bus pass for them to gain access to the system.
Mr. Reposa, I'm gonna need to stop you right there, your 3 minutes. I'm used to hearing a buzzer, that's why I'm letting folks go
Okay.
over. Appreciate your comments. Did Mr. Reposa answer your specific questions?
He did. I was most interested
Okay.
in hearing him just define for everybody that we do have software, there is a countywide system, and there isn't that much abuse when you're talking about the whole entire county.
Any
Thank
final
you.
comments, sir?
No, sir.
Okay. Commissioner Newton?
I had a question for him. The abuse portion of it, the reason I asked about that, I'm a St. Petersburg City Councilman, and we walk from City Hall sometime over the restaurants right there on 4th Street. And walking through the park, I've been approached numerous times and offered to be sold bus passes, you know, by shady individuals. I don't know whether they're homeless or how they got them or whatever. That's why I was just asking, but you have to inspect what you expect. I mean, it's costing you guys real money. You're doing it almost impossible with nothing. So if you put parameters in place, which I am excited to hear that you do verify it, And there is a system where they can't go dupe and go get stuff from St. Pete and then go over here and go over there, because they will, not all of them, but you're right. People will game the system. They find a way around it, they'll game it. And unfortunately, it does penalize and make it more difficult for the ones that actually need it. So that's where I was going with that. I'm glad you touched on that. I think Brad is on this stuff once we go to the plastic cards and we can verify the information annually, and just from the metadata on the back of it, be able to update if the individual is eligible for the discount, and if they sell that, if you had to wait, they're done for the year. So I think that would really curb a lot of that. So, but I'm glad to hear your report, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you, Commissioner Newton. Thank you, Mr. Raposa. We appreciate it. Next speaker is Debbie Bushman.
Hi, my name is Debbie Bushman. I'm the jail diversion placement coordinator in the Public Defender's Office, and I just wanted to say thank you for all that you do, and that we do support this recommendation for the transportation disadvantaged. And we've got one of our case managers here and an intern from USF, and this really helps our clients, so thank you.
Good morning. Thank you for being here. I have no other cards on this item. I do want to thank again everyone that came to speak on this, and thank our staff. You know, the county has an economic impact of poverty report, and it just talks about how vital transportation is to combating poverty throughout our community, whether it's folks getting the health care or employment. And so I appreciate staff working with all the stakeholders. There is a cost to us. But that economic impact of poverty report says the cost to Pinellas County for poverty is over $2.5 billion.
Yes.
So we have to look at the big picture. Any other comments, or do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Other comments or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all. We'll now move to committee appointments.